Hello, and welcome back to the Barrens. Today, we're going to look at an incident that really took the 90s by storm. The news was everywhere, and it was quite the scandal at the time. This is about the life of figure skater Tonya Harding and the attack on Nancy Kerrigan. Tonya Harding was born in Portland, Oregon on November 12, 1970. Her parents were LaVonna Golden and Albert Harding. According to Tonya, her mother was verbally and physically abusive. She claims that once during an altercation, her mother even threw a steak knife at her, which landed in her arm. Her mother, LaVonna, claimed it wasn't true. She also said that she didn't beat her children and said that she would only spank to show right from wrong. LaVonna admitted only to spanking Tonya with a hairbrush once at the ice rink. A friend of Harding, Sandra Luckow, said that she saw the incident with the hairbrush, that she was 11 at the time and Tonya's mother had hit Harding with the brush several times for not wanting to have her hair brushed. Still, according to one source, Luckow says that while LaVonna's behavior could be egregious towards Tonya, that she still supported her skating and had a huge amount of humanity. Yet, Tonya spoke of abuse that would go on most days of the week, escalating from just 7 years old. Tonya apparently spoke of her family as trailer trash, while LaVonna claims that they were nothing of the sort. She said they lived in a nice trailer and were never dirty. Yet, in the Price of Gold documentary, they described her as living in poverty and that sometimes she would skate without a meal in her belly. Whatever the case may be, it's clear that tensions were high between the mother and daughter. LaVonna enrolled Tonya in ice skating lessons when she was just 3 years old. She was a waitress, working many shifts so she could pay for her daughter's lessons. From there, things really took off. Tonya's coach was Diane Rawlinson, a previous solo ice capade skater. Diane would go on to coach in 1968. She and Harding were quite different, especially when it came to taste, but they worked together for over 20 years. Tonya loved to skate. She said it was a sanctuary for her, a place where she could forget any problems she had and just skate. In 1987, when Tonya was 16, her father and mother divorced. That was LaVonna's third husband. It seemed that Tonya really loved her father, as opposed to her half-brother Chris Davidson, who she says, and I'm going to put this as PG as possible, did very inappropriate things to her several times as a child. Tonya called the police, which led to his arrest. She claims that her parents were in denial about the incident and did not want her to press charges. When released from prison, Chris was killed in a hit-and-run in 1988. Tonya quit high school her sophomore year to focus on skating and ended up getting her GED in 1988. Tonya, while a brilliant skater, had other talents as well. She would hunt, fish, play pool, and even knew how to fix up automobiles. This moxie, as some would call it, likely caused her to stick out in competitions. She was not what was considered the image of figure skaters for the time. But, as she claims in her interview in The Price of Gold, that wasn't what she sought after. Tonya said that after one of her competitions, a judge approached her about her pink handmade costume. She said that the judge told her that if she ever wore something like that again, she wouldn't advance. Tonya told them that if they had $5,000 to give her for a costume, she'd get one, but otherwise to stay out of her face. She competed for many years, and in 1989, Dodie Teachman became her new instructor. In 1990, she married Jeff Gillooly, a conveyor belt worker making minimum wage. She married him to get away from her mother, finding someone older and with a job as a way out. Yet she claimed that he was abusive and filed for divorce twice. Her coach, Dodie, spoke of how Harding would tell her how he would grab her and yell at her. However, she said she knew that Tonya could also dish it out. Still, Harding says that he was abusive. While Harding placed in many competitions, her true time to shine came in the 1991 U.S. Championships. It was there that she became the first American woman to land a triple axel in the championships. A triple axel is a jump after forward-facing takeoff that leads into 3.5 rotation spins before landing. It is extremely difficult, and only about 12 competitors have ever achieved this at the international competition. So when Harding managed this, it was awe-inspiring. She placed first in that competition, with Christy Yamaguchi in second and Nancy Kerrigan in third. However, John Powers, a Boston Globe reporter, said that when Tonya placed first, it felt like the officials were not pleased because she wasn't the image they wanted. But that didn't stop her. In September's 1991 Skate America competition, Tonya recorded 3 more firsts. She was the first woman ever to complete a triple axel in the short program. She was the first woman ever to successfully execute 2 triple axels in a single competition. And she was the first ever to complete a triple axel in combination with the double toe loop. She began placing in more competitions, though it seemed that she was starting to lose some of her edge. Her coach, Dodie, said that some of her troubles were beginning to appear on the ice when she skated. She would even have difficulty landing triple axels in competitions. Tonya said she was beginning to gain weight as well. It seemed that while she struggled, Nancy Kerrigan was gaining a lot of notoriety. She was graceful, elegant, and more akin to the image that judges were looking for in competitions. Kerrigan worked with sponsors like Campbell's Soup, Revlon, and Reebok. Tonya, on the other hand, wasn't receiving any sponsors or endorsements, and maybe that was eating at her. But when the Olympics decided that after the 92 competition they would do another in 94, Tonya began training again. This time she seemed more on the ball. She said she knew she was ready. She divorced Jeff Gillooly in 1993, though it seems they remained in contact or perhaps even got back together sometime after this. Then in 1944, tragedy struck. It was January 4th, 1994, just after Nancy Kerrigan finished practice and headed towards the dressing rooms, that a man hit her above the knee of her right leg with a baton. She could be heard screaming and sobbing, why me? The man rushed out, jumped through the glass of some barricaded doors, hopped into a getaway car, and left. The man who struck Nancy was named Shane Stant, and his accomplice was also his uncle named Derek Smith. Now, apparently they were hired for the hit by Tonya's ex-husband Jeff and her bodyguard Sean Eckhart. Now, I'll note here, however, that in an interview, an adult Tonya denies that Eckhart was ever actually her bodyguard and was Jeff's friend, but that she thought the man was an idiot. But in an interview when she was younger, she did state that he was her bodyguard. So was this an attempt to distance herself from the situation? I'm not sure. Now, the attack was meant to keep Nancy from competing in nationals and the Winter Olympics, though luckily it only severely bruised her leg instead of breaking it. When Tonya was interviewed and asked if anyone she knew might be responsible, she answered, quote, "I definitely thought about it," end quote. She denied any knowledge or involvement in the matter. All the while, Harding was training at the Clackamas Town Center Mall. People would show up, including reporters, and they would film her practices. 2 days after the attack, Harding won the gold medal at the 1994 U.S. Figure Skating Championships. It was on January 13th that Eckhart and Smith were arrested. This was because Eckhart kept bragging to people about what he had done. Eckhart was also a notorious liar, but under interrogation, he eventually cracked. Harding and Gillooly's individual lawyers assured the press that both parties were speaking with the FBI and cooperating. On January 16th, Tonya's lawyer read a statement to the press denying Tonya's involvement in the incident. On January 18th, 1994, Harding agreed to an FBI and DA interview. This lasted for 10 hours. According to sources that claim the transcripts from the interview were released in February that year, Harding began to change her story halfway through. Then, finally, when an agent told her that she had been lying and that he could prove she was, Harding stated, quote, "I hope everyone understands. I'm telling on someone I really care about. I know now Jeff is involved. I'm sorry," end quote. Jeff surrendered on January 19th. Him and the others involved implicated Harding. Harding did separate from Jeff during this time, and he was, according to the district attorney, shocked that she had given him up. The following day, Diane Sawyer asked Tonya if she was involved. Her response was that she did nothing wrong. Once Gillooly started to testify that the attack was being plotted since January and probably implicating Harding as an assistant to the crime, Tonya spoke out. She said, quote, "Despite my mistakes and rough edges, I have done nothing to violate the standards of excellence and sportsmanship that are expected in an Olympic athlete," end quote. Tonya's friend and then roommate Stephanie Quintero told the press that Tonya was shocked and hurt. On January 27th, Harding finally admitted that she knew of the conspiracy to attack Kerrigan after she won in Detroit and failed to give this information to the FBI. She read her apology letter to the press at a conference. At Jeff Gilhuly's trial on February 1st, he took a plea deal for a lighter sentence. He testified against Harding and received a prison sentence for racketeering. A few days after that, the FBI dug up some trash that revealed Nancy Kerrigan's practice schedule, as well as the arena that she would practice at. A handwriting expert confirmed it was in Tonya Harding's handwriting. Tonya Harding was to be the subject of USOC to decide on disciplinary action. Harding, however, tried to sue for $25 million. Now, there are arguments for both cases, but I don't want to get too much into detail for that particular event. But the Olympics did actually allow her to compete, which was part of the settlement out of court. It was on February 29th, 1994 that Harding performed in Lillehammer, Norway. During Harding's performance, however, she broke down. She began to cry before skating to the judges and showing them her skate. She claimed her lace had broken. Supposedly, this had not been the first time she had made some sort of claim about a malfunction in skates or wardrobe, but the judges allowed her to start her performance over. Yet, even with all of that, Harding only came in 8th place. Nancy Kerrigan, who had managed to recover and compete, took home the silver. Yet many people believe that this was a political move and that Nancy should have won the gold. I'd like to take a moment here to really show some appreciation for Nancy Kerrigan. She only had 6 weeks to recover from her injury, and only 2 of those weeks were spent actually skating. She stayed so focused on her recovery even after the trauma of what happened and all that news coverage. And that's real dedication. And to top it all off, she took home the silver. That's impressive. Another little fact I found interesting was that when in Norway, Kerrigan and Harding had to practice together on the rink because it was done by country. And Kerrigan actually wore the same outfit to that practice as the one from the day she was attacked. She said humor was the best way to deal with it. On March 16th, Harding pleaded guilty to conspiracy to hinder prosecution. She was fined $160,000, given 3 years probation, and was banned from skating in the USFSA for life. She was also stripped of her 1994 U.S. Championship title. This sentence would keep her out of jail. Since then, she has appeared in television and cinema and even had a brief career as a boxer. She was married a couple of times. Police were called after Harding was apparently punching her ex-husband, Darren Silver's face several times and threw a hubcap at him. She spent 3 days in jail. Today, Tonya Harding is married, has a child, and is said to still skate 3 times a week. Since the incident, according to the Price of Gold documentary, Jeff had his name changed, married, then divorced, and was arrested twice for domestic violence. Sean Eckhart died at 40, the cause is unknown. Shane Stant lives in California, and Derek Smith's whereabouts are unknown. And that Nancy Kerrigan was inducted into the U.S. Figure Skating Hall of Fame in 2004. That's it for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed and found it interesting. I know that I sure did. But go ahead and leave any questions or comments you have down below. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you for joining me in the Barrens.
It was great, babe.
It wasn't long before Tonya was answering questions about last week's attack on fellow skater Nancy Kerrigan. Tonya had been questioned by the FBI.
They talk to everybody, and they're doing a thorough investigation to try and find the man who did it.
Without the competition of Kerrigan, Harding won the national title and a trip to the Olympics by a wide margin. Naturally, Harding was thrilled, but also a little disappointed.
I have had my hopes up for, the longest time now, competing against Nancy and proving to everybody that I am as good as her and better. And I didn't get that chance, but I will get that chance at Olympics, and I will prove to everyone that I am #1.